I am astrologer Kelly Kasle, and this is your February 2023 astro forecast. If you enjoy hearing the monthly astro forecasts, subscribe to make sure you are notified when a new video is posted. And if you gain insight from this video that pertains to your life, hit the like button and share it with a friend. So let's jump right in. Today I am going to cover the overall themes for the month. We're going to go through a few of the really potent days you should mark on your calendar to see what happens on those days. And then a new segment that I'm adding to these monthly forecasts are giving you journal prompts based on the astrology and human design that you can reflect on the energies that we are feeling in the astrology. What I'd really like to encourage people to do this year is to increase their capacity to actually feel the energies, because when you start working with astrology, just like if you go and learn Reiki or you start working with crystals, anything energetic that you start working with, the more you work with it, the more that you can actually feel it and feel the shifts without having to go and look first. And I'd like you to increase your capacity to feel. So we do that by reflecting on what's going on and how we are feeling it in our own lives. So let's go into the overall themes for the month. We start this month off with all of the planets direct, finally moving again. We are officially out of that long, harsh retrograde season that we had in 2022, thank goodness. Though what you are probably hearing from a lot of other astrologers is, oh, all the energy is moving again, it's all good, we can start to go ahead. That's not quite how I see it with all that's going on in the charts for the next month and a half. We are really in winter, both in the weather season right now and the energetic seasons. This is a time of death and rebirth, especially like the beginning of a rebirth in late March. So we really have to make it through the next month and a half of energetic winter first. Remember, because retrogrades pull the planets back, they're moving forward from Earth's point of view, it looks like they're going backwards. So they move back to earlier degrees. So when they finally go direct again, we get to relive those energies of those degrees, essentially getting a do-over. Now, a lot got stirred up in the last 6 months, so a huge theme overall in 2023 is cleaning up messes and areas of your life that were affected or that you were sitting with through this last 6 months of retrograde season before we can really move forward to create new things. Again, this big theme of energetic winter right now. This is seen especially with Pluto coming to 29 degrees Capricorn here in about a week and a half. The 29 degrees is the most extreme degree of each zodiac sign. It is like if you were to order a cocktail that was completely alcohol, the whole thing, that's what 29 degrees is. Whereas if you made a nice cocktail that was a whole mixture of things where maybe you tasted a lot of it, but it wasn't like the whole thing. 29 degrees is a whole cup of whatever it is that you're drinking. And finally at the end of March, Pluto is going to come into Aquarius. Now in 2023, Pluto is only going to stay in 0 degrees of Aquarius, and it's going to retrograde back into Capricorn. So Pluto is going to cause a lot more destruction with big systems, which is of course what we're already seeing, but I'm just warning you, there is more to come. We haven't actually hit 29 degrees yet. I'll show you when we do. So whatever still needs to be brought down will be brought down dramatically. And luckily though, I personally think that Saturn in Pisces is going to aid in the cleanup process over the next 2 years. That's what I'm calling these next 2 years. It's like the cleanup years before we really feel what this Aquarius energy is bringing in for us. So as I mentioned, I'm actually excited for Saturn to enter Pisces next month because I think it's really going to aid in reining in the lies in the mainstream media we've watched over the last 2 years. Remember that Neptune and Pisces energy both rule the media, and Neptune is at the very end of Pisces for these next 2 years. So the illusional side, remember there's higher and lower expressions of every zodiac sign. So we are seeing a lot of the lower expression of Neptune in Pisces, with all of the illusion and the lies and the fear mongering. And I think that Saturn is actually going to help that, because with whatever else is going to happen in these next 2 years, where we're going to need to hear real facts, hopefully from our media or from sources, Saturn in Pisces will help to damper how much emotional fear they can spew on people. I think it's getting to the point, hopefully if you're watching this, you are someone who has realized that you don't need to tune into the fear mongering. It doesn't help anyone. So hopefully Saturn in Pisces is going to help clean that up over the next 2 years. So that's a really exciting shift coming. Now, before we talk about Saturn finishing in Aquarius in February, with what we're going to feel in February, since we just kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but I want to give you a preview of the good things that are coming despite being in winter. I would like to mention that Pluto's placement in human design, and let's actually look at this for a second. In my own work with clients, with people, I do both astrology and human design readings. For me personally, I find it really helpful to look at your astrology first, and then we can go much, much deeper into your human design, because I like to think of the astrology as the zoomed out view of everything going on. It's like if you were an eagle flying over the landscape, whereas with human design, you zoom in to the one little area or tree or you, essentially. So Pluto in human design, let me just make sure that I'm looking at this here. Okay, Pluto in human design is sitting right here in gate 60. And this is called the gate of limitations. Also remember that Saturn has been in Aquarius for the last 2 years. And Aquarius really is like the icy tundra of the zodiac wheel. It's cold, it's ruled by, or it rules a part of the mind, intelligence, very high intelligence, high thought. It is the person that is kind of the outcast. They really see far ahead into the future, so oftentimes they feel very misunderstood. Even though to others they might not appear that way, and that's not how people are actually perceiving them, they often feel that way because they feel like people don't understand their ideas. Now, with the human design wheel, we can zoom into a better understanding of what some of these degrees mean. And if you think about it, many great innovations happened because the inventor had very little to work with. And with whatever it was, they said, okay, at this moment, I have these 3 objects. I have to do something really incredible with these 3 things. That's all I've got to make this big thing happen. That is where innovation and what we call in human design mutation actually happens. So Pluto, again, remember, it is death and transformation, huge transformations. So it is sitting here at the end of Capricorn saying, okay, we're going to limit everything, all the tools that you have, so that you can mutate and innovate into your next level of being. I know it's going to feel really uncomfortable now, but I promise you, you're going to come out stronger on the other side. And with this is one of the main analogies that I use for understanding astrology and human design. There are some people, maybe I'll be at a party or something and talking to someone, they're like, I just don't really believe in that. And I don't want you to tell me who I am and all these limitations. And I'm like, okay, there's a whole lot of threads that we can go into this at some point with. But the simplest one to start with is the way I see astrology and human design is this is the landscape, like in a video game, for example, that you were put onto Earth with. You were put with whatever you see in your chart. Those are the tools that you were given to be and to move through the landscape. And as the planets continue to move, they set up whatever landscape you are moving through, whatever obstacles are there, whatever other tools you're given along the way to use, the doorways of opportunity, the challenges that you encounter. The astrology sets all of that up. So in this instance, Pluto is coming through and saying, we are putting you basically at the top of a very challenging mountain. That's kind of one of the analogies we use for Capricorn, is the goat climbing up this very steep mountain, especially at the very late degrees. It's like you are almost at the top, but you are so tired, you don't know if you're going to make it. You just have to get yourself up there. And right now it's saying, we're only going to give you these few tools to work with. Here, go. See what you can do with it. And Saturn is there too. It is limiting all these big, crazy ideas that we want to start implementing in society. And I'll give you an analogy of my own conversation that I've been having with Saturn, because I did go through my Saturn return about a year and a half ago in Aquarius. I have Saturn, Mars, and Venus conjunct in my own chart. So I know this Aquarius energy very, very well. So this is my own personal conversation with this icy Aquarius energy right now. This Saturn, Plutonian transformation, but here's all these limitations you got to deal with along the way. So what I'm saying to Saturn, I want to build my own school. This is one of my own personal dreams. I am tired of seeing kids who are stretched way too thin with 1,000 activities. It's not actually doing anything good for them. They aren't actually learning much. They're just turning into robots who can recite a list of facts for a week and then it goes out the window. I'm tired of seeing so many kids with so many mental health issues and anxiety. I'm tired of watching teachers be underpaid and overworked. So I'm ready to build my own school to fix some of these things, and I'm ready to go. And Saturn comes along and says, I know you have great intentions. You're on your way. You're gonna figure it all out. However, you're not gonna manifest it out of thin air. Timing matters. Start step by step. Start by talking to a few people, maybe who have already started and built their own schools. Start talking with people about the project, about what you want to do. Start doing the research. You're going to have to take the first steps first. So it is when you have these big ideas, these big dreams, and life is just coming along and saying limits. You got to work within these limits. And it can be really frustrating at times. So I'm curious, let me know in the comments, who else is feeling that kind of energy? So another big energy that we've been feeling with for a long time, but just to remind you, If you are feeling really limited, if you, like in my chart right now, Uranus is squaring that big conjunction I just mentioned to you of Saturn, Mars, and Venus, and it is causing chaos in my life. It's causing a lot of those limits, things happening out of nowhere that I'm not expecting. Like, it's causing a lot of upheaval. And with the Neptune and Pisces energy, it's really easy, if you are feeling super uncomfortable, to fall into illusion, to want to go and hide away, medicate yourself, go into fantasy land. It's also really easy to get trapped thinking that you can manifest things out of thin air, thinking that you can go to a sound bath and poof, overnight, you're going to have a new life. With Uranus in Taurus right now, especially it's with the North Node squaring the Sun this month, it's causing way too much instability for that, especially in the physical world. It's literally causing instability in the physical world. So what I will say is that depending on what house Uranus is hitting in your chart, you can definitely receive surprises out of nowhere. Remember, Uranus rules the unexpected. It loves freedom. It wants to feel free. So if there is some area of your life where you're not feeling free, where you wish you could be more rebellious, Uranus is going to come through and make that happen. You have to be careful what you wish for, because it could clear out a whole lot of things that you were not ready, emotionally, financially, whatever, to say, oh, I'm ready to have this kind of freedom. So don't be surprised if there are surprises out of nowhere. And I'm also not saying that your life can't change overnight. Trust me, with all of the experiences I've had in the last few years, I know that that is possible. I'm just saying, don't expect it because of a Neptunian ritual. The universe will bring the changes out of nowhere, regardless of the rituals right now, because of Uranus. So my advice is put in a little bit of effort into your work every day. Get in the flow with your work. That is what Saturn in Aquarius wants you to do. It says, okay, you have the idea. Okay, you have to go to work to get it. And when you're in that flow with your work, the magical moments will flow in. Now, what will help us make us feel good despite winter is Venus in Pisces through the 19th. It will be squaring Mars for part of that time, so your mind is going to compete with your emotions. But at least it's going to help boost the dopamine and all of the good feelings, the good emotions for a little while. Just be sure that you don't get caught up in it. Now, speaking of Mars, Mars is back on. Thank God. This was the toughest retrograde for me personally because it was going through my 12th house. I am so ready for it to be out of my 12th house, get out of my head. But at the moment, it's still moving very slowly back through Gemini. So whatever ideas you've been contemplating since Halloween, they are coming up to be looked at again. I recommend finding out what house Gemini is in your own chart to see where you could feel clarity in your life, in that area of life, after it's been in this retrograde. It went all the way back, almost all the way back through Gemini, and now it's moving forward again. We get to relive it again. And finally, one of the last kind of big planets to deal with. I know we haven't covered all of them. We're not going to cover all of them today. But the last one to really look at is Jupiter. It's still in the first decan of Aries, desperately wanting us to identify what we want and get going. Again, that's like one of these big themes. Oh my God, I have these ideas. For some of you, you already know what it is that you want. For some of you, you're still kind of in Neptunian land. I don't know what I want. But Jupiter is putting on this internal pressure to say, hey, let's figure it out and get going. But with everything else happening in the charts right now, clearly identifying what you want is a challenge, because with the Neptune and Pisces veil, and again, anything that comes to Pisces is a completion. It's the end of the chart. This is also the area of death and rebirth. We just can't see into the future right now. I know when I talk to people, I'm talking to them about their plans, their ideas, their new projects. No one can see right now how it's all going to turn out. So just remember that this is happening on a collective level right now. There's just way too much instability in all areas of life to know how things are going to turn out. Next month, we will talk about Jupiter meeting with Chiron. Chiron also is now out at retrograde and getting a slow start through Aries. Chiron right now in human design is sitting in the gate of control and authority. And remember, Chiron is a wound that we have to heal. So wounds around anger, resentment, and bad decisions from authorities will really be amplified here in these next 2 months. And yes, we have already started to see this in the news. Just expect more of it. One of these instances is a great example are the latest Project Veritas videos that have just dropped in the last week. I highly recommend watching them if you have not. And just remember, okay, as Jupiter is getting closer to Chiron, Jupiter expands whatever it touches. It doesn't have a sense of right or wrong. Its job is to simply expand. So it is going to expand those wounds of control and authority, and too much authority. So we're going to see a lot of that in the next 2 months. To conclude here, for these overall themes, my advice to make it through this still tumultuous energy is to get into a rhythm with your work. Stay really engaged with your work. Keep your mind focused on the little tasks, moving from thing to thing. If you find your mind wandering off, bring it back. Keep bringing it back. Same thing with emotional overwhelmed. Get your mind, like that Mars in Gemini, even if it's in a different place in your chart other than the 3rd house or like the 12th house for me, it's really going to stir up the mind. So enjoy the small moments in your day-to-day life. Remember, Gemini also rules your immediate environment. What is going on right within arm's distance? So keep yourself engaged in that little bubble. And just remember that energetically, this month is going to feel like a build up to March, where at the end of March, when we have the shift of Saturn moving into Pisces, I think it's a day or 2 later, Pluto moves into Aquarius. It's going to be really interesting to watch and see what happens in the world on those days, but we have to build up to it first. Slow winter limitations. So those are the overall themes for this month. Let's go through a few potent days to mark on your calendars and then finish with some journal prompts. Okay. There is the Human Design wheel. In case you're wondering, I always love looking at these mandalas. It's really fun to see. Like, this is my chart overlaid with the current energies. So you can see in the Human Design wheel where they're touching, what's going on. Really interesting. But let's go over to this guy. Okay, so the potent days. Here we go. So starting February 1st, of course, we are midway through Aquarius season, winter. The moon left Gemini and is coming into Cancer. Here we go. Okay, and is setting us up for the full moon in Leo. Now, the first potent day I would mark on my calendar if I were you, let's see here. Okay, there we go, is February 3rd. Oh, hey there. Oh, I see what it's doing. Okay, cool. I have my two screens going. Is February 3rd. So on this day, the moon is opposing Mercury. Now, I didn't mention Mercury at all either. It's not really a huge player this month because all the other energies are so strong. And it's sitting in Capricorn, and then it's going to go through Aquarius. So it's really just amplifying more of what we have already talked about. But on February 3rd, when our emotional body in Cancer wants to feel comfortable and it opposes Mercury, who is thinking about your career, your long-term success, and it's squaring there's a square between the Sun and Uranus, it could just be a kind of uncomfortable day, an interesting day. Some interesting things could come up. So on this day, don't fall into the trap of the moon. Again, get yourself working, get yourself engaged. Then we do finally have this full moon in Leo on the 5th. It's also kind of interesting because Lilith, remember, like the dark side of the moon, the side of us that kind of the darker side of our personality comes out in Leo this month as well. So this is going to be a fairly temperamental full moon in Leo. Remember, Leo wants to have fun. It wants to feel good. But everything else happening in Capricorn and Aquarius is not really letting that happen. So just be sure on this full moon, you don't have a temper tantrum moment of if, I don't know, you were planning on maybe going out with some friends and they cancel last minute. Just watch your reactions on these days. Now, going through to our next important days are going to be February 9th and 10th. This could be really interesting with the moon opposing Jupiter and Mercury crossing Pluto. We look for when these days when we have a bunch of strong energies happening with the moon opposing that Jupiter. We could hear some really interesting exposure stories because, then if we go to, let's see here, the 9th and the 10th, so that moon is in Libra, it is wanting balance. So we could hear some really interesting exposure stories about imbalances of power, that Pluto and Capricorn, or misuses of power on those days. So keep an eye out for big stories. And then finally, big moment, February 11th, Pluto moves to 29 degrees. The heat's going to get turned up, but we keep moving. The next big day I picked out is February 15th. This should feel really awesome because Pisces and Neptune conjunct on this day. Hopefully this should be a really good day. Everyone should be in really good moods. And we have the moon making its way towards the new moon that we're going to have here is going to feel really good. So kind of in contrast though, February 15th is going to feel great. And then the next day, boom, Sun and Saturn meet up. And now Mercury is in Aquarius land. Mars is finally moving again. It moved very slowly through these first few degrees as it came out of retrograde, but now it's finally getting its energy back, moving faster again. The moon is in Capricorn on this day, so this is going to be a really good day to get things done. So on that Wednesday night, maybe plan a dinner with friends on the 15th, then plan on working on Thursday the 16th. Then February 19th, the sun moves into Pisces. We kick off Pisces season. This is really exciting with both Neptune and Venus in Pisces, which feels awesome. And we get a new moon that day going into the next day. And I think that this is going to be an awesome new moon. I'm actually going to plan on doing some sort of new moon ceremony, so I will keep you updated if that's going to be a virtual thing or a live thing. But I think that this is going to be a day for a really good omen. Mercury is trining Mars, good day for communication. Yeah, I'm really excited for this new moon, especially it's with my energies as I am a Pisces. My birthday is March 3rd, so I'm going to be really excited once we get into Pisces season. Then the last big day I have for this month is February 27th, which is when Saturn is sitting at 29 degrees of Aquarius. Move to here. Where are we? Let's go back a day. Okay, so Saturn makes it to 29 degrees Aquarius. We have the moon in Gemini with Mars, so this could cause some explosions. Jupiter is getting real close here to Chiron, and Venus is going to be in Aries, which it's not super happy in Aries. We'll talk about in March. This all makes a conjunction right at the beginning of March, so you'll have to wait till next month for that information. But yeah, this is going to be a really interesting day. Pluto sitting at 29 degrees, Saturn sitting at 29 degrees, this all happening. It's just be really careful about what you say on these days. Be really careful about not getting into a fight with authorities. If you're feeling blocked, just again, do the little steps. Say, okay, I'm going to get as much done as I can, and I will come back to it tomorrow and get going again tomorrow. So then we reach March 1st with that moon in Cancer squaring Venus. And this big conjunction is about to happen. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm excited to see what happens on this month. Now let's finish off with the journal prompts for this month. I have 2 of them for you. Okay. The first, we're going to play with the Jupiter and Saturn Pluto energies. So just to refresh your memory, for most of this month, Jupiter is in Aries. It's wanting to get things going. It's wanting to identify things. And Saturn and Pluto are both sitting in the workhorse houses, the father limiting houses. So there's the play between those two. Wanting and limitation. So the steps here, first, write down 3 new things that you want. Identify what they are, the Jupiter and Aries energy. Then list out where you currently feel limited in getting those things. Is it money? Is it resources? Is it time? Is it that you feel like you don't have enough help to accomplish whatever it is? Write those things down. Then ask yourself, what if you had to create whatever it is that you want with what you already have? What if the universe says, I want to see what you can do with what you already have? How creative can you be with your solutions and discovering different routes to the same result? Again, the word innovation is really big right now. And just like creating a diamond, putting it into that hot furnace, the pressure, the limitation, that's what creates the diamond. So where can you innovate in your life? That is journal prompt number 1. And journal prompt number 2 has to do with the North Node, which we didn't talk about, but I'll just show you on the Human Design wheel. It is sitting over here. Let me see. I think I need to move this up a bit. Here we go. Okay. It is sitting over here in Taurus. Now, Taurus and Uranus aren't like tightly conjunct anymore. They're starting to move apart slowly. But the North Node for the majority of the month, okay, the day I ran it, it was sitting here in 24. But now for the majority of the month, it's going to be here in the 27th gate of the Caretaker, representing selflessness and altruism. Remember, Taurus is like the divine mother, and she does it in style. Most Tauruses that I know, or if people have Taurus moons, they like really nice things. They like to look nice. This is the mother who knows her boundaries and therefore has the energy to care for others because she cares for herself first. She makes sure she has a full cup before helping others. So with this in mind, I'd like you to contemplate where you enjoy selflessly giving to others. So is it to your kids, your family, your work, volunteering? And the boundaries that you set to do that thing fully without feeling used, overworked, or drained. Remember, with all of these things, there's always a higher expression and a lower expression. And the North Node is asking us to move further and learn the lessons of that zodiac sign. So right now, we are all getting to learn how to be divine Tauruses. So maybe get together with your Taurus friends. Ask them how they do that. Ask if you find a Taurus rising, a Taurus moon, or a Taurus sun. They will tell you just how they do this. And finally, do you need to set any new boundaries? If you feel like, maybe I could do better in this area, maybe you need to set some new boundaries. So I'd love to hear, after you do these journal prompts, I'd love to hear your thoughts, what you came up with, what you discovered about yourself. Are you starting to feel the astrology more? Could you feel that the planets all turned on again? Can you feel that we're kind of going through the same energies that we already experienced for the last 6 months? We're just getting to see it kind of from a new perspective. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the energies, the astrology, your insights below. Again, please like and subscribe to the channel for any new videos. I even have some meditations up there now. So if you want some deeper contemplation, go do a meditation first. Really drop into your heart, connect to your soul, and then do your journaling. Happy February. I'll see you in March.